Welcome everyone to my channel and to my first upload. So I finally decided to make a video of my own about books because books are things that I like to read. It's also a hobby of mine to watch booktubers for quite a long time now, and I really like the community that they built around my interests. And being a part of that is a warm feeling, and perhaps I wanted to provide the same to my viewers. So, the video I'll be making today will be both a reaction and a review, since I couldn't decide which one to make. While I give critique to the book I will also share my what my impressions are and how my reading experience was. But before I start, introductions. I am Hans, living a simple life in the island of Cuyo, in the beautiful land of Palawan, in the sunny, sometimes rainy, country of the Philippines. If you think I'm an introvert, you're right. So, the first novel I finished to read, was Gulliver's Travels, an old book at my grandparents' place. They have lots of them, all kinds of books, and the ones I like especially were the story ones. So most of the novels I've read back then were mostly classics. The ones you'll often hear being discussed at school because what else do they got? But when I finally could afford a book of my own, I had a wider variety to choose from. I could choose to read a book that I'm really fascinated about, for example, fantasy and adventure, which I really enjoy. And that is why today the book I will be featuring is one by my favorite animated series growing up, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, The Dawn of Yangchen by FCP is actually the third novel that the franchise released. For those of you who aren't aware, though, the first two Kyoshi novels are quite popular, so I bet most of you already know. I can't tell you the excitement I felt when they announced the making of a third book. And this time, about another avatar whose life we barely touch on. And this is another great addition to the rich world we are introduced to in the legends of Aang and Korra. So before I share my thoughts on the plot, I will share my thoughts on the cover. So this is the first book that I bought in hardbound. My problem when reading paperbacks is they tend to not lay flat on the table. You have to hold the pages to keep them still, or you have to hold it like this to keep you reading. And the cover also wear faster from use. Now, I'm not saying that paperbacks are bad. When you want a book that you can take or read almost anywhere, for let's say while waiting in line, when traveling on a ship or in a plane, paperbacks are the better option. And there's also the lesser cost. When you aren't sure whether you will like the book or not, it is a good start to invest in paperbacks since you don't have to pay extra for the deluxeness that hardbound books provide. Now, since this is Avatar, I didn't mind the price, and to me, hardbound books, in my experience, is more comfortable to read at home. The pages can be browsed through more easily, and it gave me a more epic sense of the story that I am reading. Now, the jacket art features a picture of Yangchen, and here she seems to be holding a thought, calculating what her next move will be. And to me, that reflects her way in dealing with her duties as the Avatar. While Kyoshi's arts depict her in a warrior stance, as if ready to strike, ready to make the first move, that's because to me, Kyoshi is a head-on avatar. Yang Chen grew up in the pacifistic air nomad culture, so she must consider whether her actions will cause damage or not. Behind her are a silhouette of men. I'm not sure whether they are the Shanks, that the political figures that the book mentioned, but none of their descriptions fit them very well. Or maybe they meant to represent the countless of lives before Yangchen in the Avatar cycle. It was mentioned that Yangchen had trouble keeping down the voices of her past lives in her head. And of course, if you met so many of your past lives, they will tend to appear blurry or something like a silhouette. But I'm pretty sure the author did not intend to make this to keep this vague. Maybe in the future we will get a clear answer on who they are supposed to be. Another thing I noticed are the colors they use for the background. In the first Kyoshi books, the color of the background is green, and most of the plot, most of the world building centered around the Earth Kingdom, which in the Avatar universe is green. Their culture is green. The second book, the background was red, and we were taken to the Fire Nation. We were introduced to the different clans, their unique culture, to the clashes in their political system, especially among in their royal family. Now, for the Book of Yangchen, we got blue for as the color of the background. And while this book did not take me to the northern or southern water tribe, one of the main characters, who played an important role, of course, Kavik, that's his name, is a waterbender whose family is from the northern water tribe, and they moved to the Earth Kingdom city of Ben to find a better way of living. And to me, that perhaps justifies the color we got because to keep up with the motif that is the element of water. So now let's move to the plot. A couple of comments I heard from some fans is that this book feels more like a setup for the next one. Yes, it is confirmed that we will get a fourth book, the second book of Yang Chen. I am still very excited to get a copy of it, and when I do, I will make a video on it too. Um, while I relate to those fans' experience, I think one of the main reasons why we felt that way is because the author had to take a different approach in telling Yang Chen's story. In the Kyoshi books, it is more of Kyoshi's journey from her being a humble and neglected servant towards her first steps to being the great avatar she is known for. We were shown how she faced her fears, her doubts, whether she really was the avatar, whether she's worthy of the title, how she met her team, how she learned the elements, how she struggled to learn them. Here, the first few chapters only gave us a brief scene from Yang Chen's childhood and nothing more. The next chapters took me immediately to the premise of this story. And Yang Chen isn't even given her own team yet in this book. And I said yet because in the comics, it is mentioned that Yang Chen had her own team avatar. Perhaps here, Yang Chen is still accustomed to her pacifistic air nomad culture that she grew up in. To avatars of other nations, it is alright to have a group of benders with them to fight with them. But to Yang Chen, maybe yeah, that she's still a pacifist, and I don't really consider any of the characters she met in this book to be a part of her team, since Boma and Sidao are more like her assistants, her secretaries, and Kavik is just someone she met in the city of Ben Ir. And maybe some of the readers were more used to having multiple characters interact with each other and the friendship that they share, like in the books of Kyoshi. Here we got lesser of that. Yes, the characters are still plenty, but rarely the friendship trope isn't that much introduced. Another reason I think for their opinion is the author's writing style. Yes, the three books were all written in third person, but while in the first two books we follow mainly Kyoshi, kinda like a third person limited, except maybe for a few changes in POVs, like when we are shown how Jansu traveled through the Earth Kingdom to search for the missing avatar, and how Yun escaped the spirit world and how he slowly became corrupted. Here we follow two main characters. That is Yangchen, of course, and Kavik, the waterbender I mentioned earlier. And they aren't merely changes in POVs. We get internalizations from Kavik too. We get to see more of his backstory. And maybe it's because while the first books are more like adventures where the avatar travels from place to place, being in all sorts of situations. Here in this book is more like a spy thriller. That's just for a lack of a better term. But some booktubers I've seen also use the term because it kinda is a spy thriller because it is mentioned that information is important to the rich and powerful, especially the Shanks who would do anything that they can to gain more knowledge that will add to their advantage. And that was the same path that Yangchen took. She may be the avatar, but the world still see her as an air nomad, a nun traveling places, doing talks about peace, seeking alms, while being ignorant to what is really happening around her. One of the Shanks in this book even insulted her for her lack of influence in their business. But Yang Chen is quite knowledgeable, and it helps that her previous incarnation, Avatar Zeto, a Fire Nation avatar who is an accountant. And what they also do not know is that Yang Chen will do things that they do not expect from their nomad. Her character here is actually consistent with what was said of her in the books of Kyoshi, where she isn't as saintly or spiritual as she seems, especially the way she dealt with the spirits in this book. Um, Yang Chen is just like any other avatar. The only thing special about them is being able to do all four elements and nothing more. She isn't an avatar name whose name if invoked will give the person invoking her name protection and or blessing. So what Yang Chen did when she met Kavik hire her is to hire him to be her sort of like an informant, someone who gathers information for her. And we get to see Kavik too because to me that's the author's way of showing us a more complete picture because we get to see what's happening outside and inside. And that contributed very much to the world building this book had, which to me is very superb. And I'm glad most of the fans think that way too because whatever they said that this book lacked, it makes up it made up for the rich world building it had. Now, one thing that kept me reading is the weapon of mass destruction. Yes, we have that in this book. It says so in here in the cover. Bin Ir is a city ruled by corrupt Shang merchants who have become resentful of the mercurial Earth King and his whims. To extract themselves from his influence, the Shanks have one solution in mind, a mysterious weapon of mass destruction that will place power squarely in their hands. Now, I can't help but wonder at first what that weapon could be, because even during Kyoshi's time and Avatar after Yang Chen, advances in technology isn't that much. And now the Shanks have something that can turn the tides to their favor. But I won't. But since this is a non spoiler review, I won't elaborate much into details. I want you to read it on your own because I tell you, the payoff is worth it. It is worth to wait what that weapon could be. And whatever it is, it fits with the world we are shown in the Legends of Aang and Korra. A small thing I've noticed is that each chapter tend to mention the word water, or words relating to water. It's like the author will just choose to describe a nearby body of water, and there's even an air nomad proverb about water. Now, maybe FCE made it intentional since, again, the motif for the book. But nevertheless, the one of the things I like about FCE is his choice in words. What, like for example, when Kavik was introduced, when he was going through a crowd of people, he described it as like diving into a sea of people. And his mere choice of words alone is enough to hint that Kavik is indeed a waterbender or someone from the water tribes. Now, yes, I am biased because whatever Avatar content you threw at me, I will surely enjoy. So I guess you already know how I felt about this one. My only letdown, perhaps, is maybe we get less friendship interactions. Yes, we have Kavik, but that's more on the familial side about his brother, about his family. And to me, it is a missed opportunity for the author to to not give us any new avatar before Yangchen. Because, again, it is mentioned that Yangchen had trouble keeping down the voices of her past lives in her head. And we were only introduced to Gun, but we weren't given more. Other than that, Zeto was already introduced in the second book of Kyoshi, and his story was already told elaborately in the second book. And I still wish we get more other than them because Avatar is a rich world. But maybe we'll get some on the next book. I'm not sure, but I'm still hoping. So again, um, if you want to share your thoughts, you can leave them on the comments. And since I am new, it is a great help if you could like this video and subscribe as well. You can also give your suggestions on how I can improve my channel and my videos. I am very much open to to constructive criticisms. Again, I am Hans. Stay tuned for more of my uploads.